All right, welcome into Spilly on the Rocks on Mile High Network, Mile High Sports. Looking forward to this. Is episode number 2, and day off for the Rockies on Monday, and so Tuesday is going to be a big day for Colorado for a couple of reasons. Number one, record is 2-7. The Milwaukee Brewers come into town. Brewers haven't played well. They've actually pitched really poorly. We're going to see kind of fun in a fun way. You'll see Freddie Peralta, who is the older brother of Luis Peralta. So older brother is in town. That story has been really cool when you consider it. I mean, like these guys work out together in the off season. They are really tight, and I love them together. They are so much fun. So we're going to see a major league debut from Zac Veen on Tuesday. I mentioned I didn't love this decision. I thought he had a chance to break with the team out of camp. So Zac Veen is a really good player. You know, kind of like out there when it comes to just he plays with like a little bit of reckless abandon, but a really cool personality. This guy, has his hair bleached. Um, he wears a necklace that says, I think, "Be happy," has a smiley face. He is a little bit of a polarizing figure just because the way he plays is not refined by any means, but it's exciting. He can steal a base. I love the bat to ball skills. I think I've mentioned a couple names who he reminds me of. Physically, he's like Charlie Blackmon, big body, runs really well, exceptionally well. Good swing, bat to ball skills are there. For him, it's just refining his game. So for the Rockies to call him up, I think it's a good decision. I kind of wish that they would have used him on the opening day roster. I felt like he certainly earned that opportunity to be on the opening day roster, but the Rockies wanted for him to get down to the minor leagues and to get those extra bats. And he did really well down in the minor leagues. He was raking. There wasn't much left to prove for Zac Veen in the minor leagues. It's time. I've said this, and you need to hear me when I tell you this. AAA baseball right now is. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just the biggest discrepancy between the big leagues and AAA that we've ever seen. And it's been this way for a couple of years now. Part of the reason why is a lot of players are getting to the big leagues faster. So they're skipping AAA. A lot of these younger players are getting to the big leagues, especially pitchers, a little bit faster. So pitching at the AAA level isn't great. There's also, when you're talking about the PCL, the Pacific Coast League, a lot of these fields are a joke. I mean, like it's very hitter friendly. You go to Reno, that's like hitting on the moon. It's great. I hit a homer there once. Colorado Springs isn't part of this thing anymore. Colorado Springs is long been expired as a AAA affiliate. The last one was Milwaukee. Rockies have been in Albuquerque. That's another place, really hitter friendly. So a lot of games there. Right now, we're watching games in West Sacramento where the A's are playing, and that AAA affiliate is, I mean, like games are just ridiculous through the roof as far as scoring goes. So I'm gonna share my screen. I like to do this just so you kind of get an idea of what I like to look at whenever I'm doing these things. So for a hitter like Zac Veen, I mean, the Rockies drafted him really high. He was a first rounder back in 2020. That was the COVID shortened year. He was a ninth overall pick. Fantastic out of Spruce Creek High School. That's a place in Florida. And Veen's different. I mean, he really is. In AAA this year, 387 batting average. I told you he doesn't belong there. He's too good. 12 for 31. He had a couple punch outs. He's going to have to learn how to gear down a little bit when it comes to his swing with two strikes at the big league level. He can't overswing. So I think that's there. But he did have a stolen base in spring training. He was really good. I think he led all Cactus League in stolen bases. That's one aspect of the Rockies game that they're lacking. They need some stolen bases, and he'll take a walk. So he'll take a walk in here as well, which I think is really important. So Zac Veen tomorrow will get the opportunity to make his major league debut. I didn't love this for Jordan Beck. I think I've said this a couple times. A young player like Jordan Beck needed to play. He was also blocked by, guys like Sean Bouchard, and their starts um, for Nick Martini, who's a good veteran player. Whether he's part of the future or not, that remains to be seen. But good veteran presence. I like Nick Martini a lot, but at the same time, you start thinking about the roster overall on a team right now that's 2-7, and where the Rockies end up over the course of the year. You kind of want to see some of these young players get a little bit more chances. So we'll see. Zac Veen, exciting. I'm telling you, really exciting. The skill set is real. Um, I'm telling you, it reminds me of Charlie Blackmon, maybe a little bit of Steve Finley. Steve Finley, back in the day was one of my favorite comps, especially as an outfielder. Good bat to ball skills, has homer potential. Veen in his career from the minor league side in 5 seasons hit 41 homers and had 135 career steals. So those are huge numbers, and was a 263 batting average, 788 OPS for his minor league career. 788 is good, but I think there's a ton in there for Zac Veen. I could picture him, as an everyday big leaguer close to 800. That would make him an above average player. So I think he's going to do fine. The other big news today that we talked a lot about, Sunday night news came out of Toronto, and I think it's worth noting. Toronto Blue Jays made their long-term extension with Vlad Guerrero. So Vlad Guerrero, the son of the Hall of Famer, was born in Canada. He re-signs with the Toronto Blue Jays, and this deal is really, you break it down, is pretty fascinating. So Spot Track, if you like contracts as much as I do, I love the front office game. I think it's such a, there's like, I went to DU. I got my MBA through DU. I got into the business of like baseball, and so I love profit and loss statements. I love learning a little bit more about how teams operate. And so, in the case of Vlad Guerrero, his deal is 14 years, $500 million. Spot Track did a really good job. They basically they nailed it. They thought his market value was 12 years, 427. He ends up at 14 and 500. So right in line with what Spot Track saw him. Benefits from Juan Soto. So Juan Soto signed a big old contract, 14 years, $765 million with the Mets. Now, the reason why the contract was so big, or actually it was 15 years, was because when he signed the deal, he was 26 years of age. Years and age matter now to front offices a little bit more than overall production. So teams are willing to pay a premium for a player when they're younger. So in the case of Juan Soto, I mean, this guy's never had a bad year. This guy's an elite hitter. Reminds me of Barry Bonds, Carlos Delgado. Like these guys that would take a walk, that can hit for power. They're really consistent. So Juan Soto's deal is probably never going to be touched again. That contract is just ridiculous. So the Mets signing him this offseason, and their deal was actually lower than what the New York Yankees offered. So Soto ends up with the Mets, but it had impact on a player specifically like a Vlad Guerrero because of the age. And so the Blue Jays signed this deal. What makes this deal so unique is there's no deferrals, zero. The reason why teams use deferrals, and I know people have talked a lot about deferrals in the last couple of years, especially with the Dodgers, because the deferrals allow a team to water down the contract. So by watering down, like for example, Ohtani's deal really is 10 years, but they made it 20 years. And the deferrals really kick in after year 10. So year 11, 12, 13, moving on through those really explodes as part of the deferral system. And so Ohtani's deal is like is $700 million, but the present value, so the actual value of the contract, is really, if you were to break it down, is 10 years, 465. So Guerrero breaks that at at 15 years or 14 years and $500 million. So the present value breaks Otani's deal. Um, why deferrals are so weird in this one is that Guerrero refused to do deferrals. Much like, and this is the part of the business where, the Angels had the same offer on the table with Otani. Otani basically offered the exact same thing, but Artie Moreno, the owner of the Angels, said, we don't do deferrals. And so he basically could have had Otani for the next 10 years at what ends up being $20 million. That's what the Dodgers are paying Otani. They're paying Otani $20 million for the next 10 years. And then it explodes. It goes crazy. Um, with the deferral contracts, though, like teams have to put the money aside. So it's not like they're not paying the money, but they can put it in a custodial account and it can accrue interest over time. And in a way, it pays itself off. So, time value of money, people always talk about this from a business standpoint. You know, what's a dollar today? Like a dollar today is worth a dollar, but a dollar 10 years from now might be worth 10. So if you defer it, the money's worth more, but you're not getting the present value. So what Guerrero did was said, "Hey, I don't want to defer. I want to do it the right way." He actually he had an interview where he said that. And the reason why that's so interesting is that with Guerrero's contract having no deferrals, the average annual value of this deal is $35 million. So out of pocket, the Blue Jays per year will spend $35 million. That's a lot of money. The way that the Dodgers contract works with Otani is that they're paying Otani $2 million. They're putting the value of the contract, which is like 46, into a custodial account, but it doesn't count against their cash out of hand. So they can actually add, which is what they've done. They've added Blake Snell and they've added all these different guys, and then they can take in the marketing money from Otani as well. So they actually make money in this deal versus paying out of pocket, which is what the Toronto Blue Jays are going to do. So I found that really interesting. It's a little bit strange. The reason why it impacts an organization so much is now, when you're paying that money directly out of pocket, it kind of forces that player. So in the case of Guerrero needs to be the best player on his team for the next 7 years for this contract to actually have value. If he doesn't, and we've seen a couple of years where Guerrero hasn't been the best player on the team, he can hamstring his own team. He can hamstring it. So it might be harder and harder for the Blue Jays to add additional players around him because of the value of the contract. Even though it's not taking up 100% of the payroll, it's taking up a large portion. So that would be something, when it's all said and done, there was a chance that Guerrero was going to go into the season possibly seeking free agency at the end of the year and painted the Blue Jays into a corner. So if the Blue Jays weren't competitive halfway through this year, you could have foreseeably seen the Blue Jays make a trade of Guerrero. Trade Guerrero, get some prospects in return, and then that value would be more than a compensation pick, and then try to re-sign him in the offseason. And then if that was the case, Guerrero would have gone into free agency with teams competing against each other, but you don't know if that contract would have ended up anywhere near what the Blue Jays paid. It could have been north of it, right? Like he could have ended up with a 14-year deal for $600 million, or it could have been a 14-year deal at $425 million. So we'll never really know how that contract ends up paying out, but the Blue Jays end up with a long-term extension of their guys. So this time of the year we call extension season. There's a lot of young players that have already signed extensions with their organizations. Jackson Merrill's a stud with the San Diego Padres. I love him. Christian Campbell's another one that just signed a long-term extension with the Red Sox. Garrett Crochet signed an extension with the Red Sox. So, are the Rockies in line for an extension for any of their young players? They already did it with Tovar. The Brenton Doyle extension, I'm a little bit indifferent here just because I know how hard Doyle plays and I know how valuable he is as a center fielder. but he's a little bit older, so this contract extension doesn't quite make sense. It makes sense when you're a little bit younger. Uh, it's almost easier to take a player. So, will the Rockies try to extend Brenton Doyle? I'm okay with it, but you have to be cautious because I don't think Doyle will stay in center field his whole career. Most guys at Coors Field and in altitude, they start to break down. So if you think Doyle will eventually move to a corner spot and can hit there, then yeah, an extension with Doyle makes a ton of sense. Otherwise, you just kind of walk him through um, arbitration, and then if you can try to figure out maybe a shorter term deal with Doyle, then you're in a much better spot financially from the Rocky standpoint. So we'll see. But I'm looking forward to seeing Zac Veen make his major league debut, and I hope you're excited for it too. So episode number 2, Rockies on the Rocks, in the books.